on the disabled list due to illness. Jose Sagan had to Gesundheit. Why don't we try?
Yeah.
I love that you did it on due to illness. All right, let's try again.
On the Dallas Opera Network, you're listening to Opera Box Score.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Wherever you are, however you're listening, it's America's talk radio show about opera. It's Opera Box Score. I'm George Cederquist, joined this week by Oliver Camacho, Matt Cummings, Weston Williams, and Ashlee Hardgrave. All right, this week, Chalk Talk. Still March. We're still mad like Lucia. So we're going to crown the OBS 2022 winningest composer of the last 300 years. And then, from the listener mailbag, we get the skinny on Jakub Józef Orlinski. Was he nude in London's Theodora, or was it false advertising? Plus 2-minute drill. The boycott of the boycotting of boycotted artists has begun. And that means you, Ildar Abdrazakov. If you're watching on TDO, you want to make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Get that full show. Stitcher, Spotify, you click follow, Apple Podcasts. You just hit the plus sign. Send us a voice memo. Get your voice on air. Email us your hot takes, operaboxscore@gmail.com. You're going to get an OBS beer coaster, and you're going to get an OBS lapel pin just for sharing your hot take. Oliver Camacho, I see that lapel pin.
Yes, you do. And I finally have something to talk about that's sports related and Oscars related. So it's like the perfect
tie it all in.
It's good. It's good.
I'm like the Venn diagram of people who really enjoy it.
You're the 2-in-1 shampoo conditioner of this podcast.
Nicely done.
Venus and Serena Williams were the first two faces we saw on yesterday's Oscars broadcast. And then it went to a live performance of Beyonce singing on the streets. It's kind of confusing.
It was
from a tennis court.
amazing. It was from their tennis court, like their home tennis court in Compton, where they were brought up. It was incredible.
So everybody by now has heard about the slap that was heard around the world.
I haven't. But
no, that was canceled by
bother to
NBC
explain.
maybe 10 years ago.
But I just want to know how Venus and Serena feel about it. Like, that was ostensibly their movie, and who is this guy getting up there, and is he doing what they would want him to do? There's so many ways to approach this and think about this, and I've seen so many people getting up and defending his actions, and people saying that never resort to violence, and et cetera, et cetera. But I would just really like to hear what their opinion is, and I'm sure we're going to get some statement at some point from them, but not soon enough for me.
Did you watch the Oscars?
I did. Watching the end of that Oscar ceremony compared to a regular Oscar ceremony is like watching the Gilded Age compared to history. And that you're watching it and you're just like, what is happening? How is this occurring?
Weston, you skipped the Oscars.
I did. All I know is that Hans Zimmer wore a bathrobe to get his Oscar, which is really, just the vibe I want out of my award shows.
And Ashlee, you're drowning your sorrows.
I am. Both in what was the Oscar telecast. Seriously, for a minute, I was like, did I take an edible and forget about it? What's happening? By the time they got to the in memoriam and then Liza in the wheelchair, I was face down on my couch. I was like, nothing is real. I can't take it anymore. More importantly, though, the Razorback update that nobody asked for. R.I.P. Razorbacks. You made it to the Elite Eight. But then in the season where Coach K will not die, Duke has made it to the Final Four by defeating my Razorbacks. But it was still a very good season.
Lots more basketball coming up this week. And of course, the OBS Opera Bracket, which is right now.
Chalk Talk on Opera Box Score.
Chalk Talk this week. It's the third and final week of the annual OBS March Madness of Opera Bracket.
On the left half, we have 18th century versus 21st century. We have George Friedrich Handel versus Terence Blanchard. And on the right half, we have Richard Strauss from the 19th century of the 20th century versus Pauline Viardot of the 19th century. So
what a matchup.
We'll begin with you, George. You are backing Handel. And you're going up against Terence Blanchard.
I am backing Handel. Look, I've said it before. Handel is not only about quality, it's about quantity. Over 40 operas, countless oratorios, hymns, religious music, a lifestyle that truly defined, in the post-Monteverdi world, truly defined like the Baroque. And that, I think, the impact of that we are still feeling today, 300 years later. That is how important Handel is.
Okay.
Oliver is not pleased.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know why he's not pleased.
You have so many things you could say about Handel. So many things you could say about, his progress as a composer, and you're bringing up like his sacred music. You're bringing up his hymns. What hymns? What are you talking about? Who is this coach?
It shows the breadth of the work.
Can you name
what doesn't he do?
Can you name 5 Handel operas?
Can I name 5 Handel operas?
Yeah.
Faramondo, Alcina, Giulio Cesare.
Okay.
Ariodante.
Okay.
Okay.
And oh man, I'm gonna trip right at the finish line.
It's quantity over quality.
Can I help him?
Fifth opera.
No, you cannot help him. You have to let him suffer. I was wondering which one of you was going to end up with egg on your face, but
shoot,
not the one I expected, to be honest.
Theodora, that's Handel. That's my 5th.
That's an oratorio, by the way.
Yeah.
Come on.
Okay.
Almost stuck the landing. That's okay.
Moving down to the bottom half of this, Terence Blanchard. Weston, what can you say? How can Terence Blanchard even dare compete with George Friedrich Handel? I have an idea, actually.
Well, I mean, I have a couple ideas as well. I will also brag and say that I can name all 2 of his operas. So I'm going to. It's Champion and Fire Shut Up in My Something or Other. No,
100% conversion rate. Very impressive.
Just crushing it. No turnovers at all.
I will say, yes, he is. This is not the same quantity over quality argument that we're getting from George over there. Because, he's new to the field. He's new to opera. He actually was, I believe he was commissioned to write his first opera, Champion, before he'd actually seen one. Which, in some ways is kind of like shocking and like, oh my God, how could you, step into this completely new art form? But in some ways that for me is what Terence Blanchard as a composer is all about. He's all about, bringing in the outside perspective, the non-white, non-male, non-British perspective, as much as I love Handel's music, we have to really acknowledge like his very, very strong ties to colonialism. I want to say he was involved in the slave trade. I can't quite remember. But certainly there's a lot of baggage that comes with a lot of these older composers. And while I don't think that's necessarily any reason to stop listening to their music, especially when Handel cannot benefit from us listening to his music, he's been dead for a very long time. I do think that when we're talking about living composers, what the future of the art form is about, we need to be finding people like Terence Blanchard. And like Oliver, I went to a performance of just this past week, and he's absolutely right. The audience there was in it every moment. The story was relevant. I took my fiance, who is an complete opera neophyte. She's been to one opera prior to this, and this one was the first one that really spoke to her in a way that she had never encountered before on the operatic stage. And that's because it's a modern story. It's a contemporary story. There's something that it could only have been told by the group of people who put it together, by Terence Blanchard and the librettist Casey. I think her name is Casey something.
Casey Lemons.
Casey Lemons.
Thank you. Yeah, she was fantastic libretto. And then of course based on the true life of Charles Blow, who I believe was at the premiere, although I missed the premiere. So. And this is something that's just so real and so powerful and like really reflects like what opera can do in telling these really relevant, really current stories, incorporating these other sound worlds from stuff we would usually consider to be outside of the classical canon, the jazz, the gospel moments in the opera. And it just was such a moving experience. And like, I love Handel. I've been to operas by Handel, and the energy in the room and the type of people watching it is just very different, you know? And I think that alone is enough to put people like Terrence Blanchard forward as much as possible, because they are the future of this art form.
I don't know what you call this in sports when there is just like a team or even an athlete that just does so well no matter what type of day they're having, they just succeed, and maybe lazily they are able to succeed. Is there a phenomenon like that you can think of in sports? Is there an athlete or a team that's like, you're not even trying, but you're winning?
Oh yeah, there's the Phelpses, the Usain Bolts, the ones that are just, once they get to the top of their game in like a freakishly fast format, they're just like the Simone Biles. Like, yes, she's worked her tush off, but she's also just so much better than everybody else.
No, what I'm saying is that, like, when you're in the audience and you see like your favorite team or your favorite athlete and they still win, but they win ugly, you know?
Oh yeah. Those are my Hogs. My Hogs won pretty ugly. They took out the number 1 seed. It was, man, the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. They took out the number 1 seed and then they lost to Duke the next day. It was exhausting.
Well, in this matchup, I'm going to say it wasn't really a fair matchup, but Handel was having a really bad day today, and Terrence Blanchard comes away with it. I'm like, I never thought I would say this because I stan Handel.
A card-carrying Standal is who we're talking to right now.
2022 was not Handel's year. Better luck next year. Yeah.
The feeling of victory washing through my body to hear Oliver Camacho saying that is indescribable. I am floating.
I don't even know who I am right now, but we have to finish this up. So we have
music man himself.
We have Richard Strauss versus Pauline Viardot. Ashlee, can you kick us off with why Viardot should take this title?
Well, first of all, I just want to remind you all that it is in fact Women's History Month, and this is the one woman that is left in play. Listen, Viardot, here's what's magical about Viardot is that she's somehow someone that's been gone for 150-ish years, but we're just now sort of uncovering and discovering things about her. She was celebrated in her time, but she's making a comeback. She's actually hot right now. A Dead Lady is super freaking hot right now in terms of productions, in terms of people learning about her. She's the topic of dissertations. She's the topic of shop talks. People are finding these operas. The recording that I'm sharing with you today, the world premiere recording was 150 years in the making, and it came out in 2018. This was an opera. This was a piece that was in somebody's private collection, hiding for years and years and years until Harvard finally got it donated to them, and now it's coming out. So she's somebody that's got that combination of polish and potential, because we don't know what else is still out there. Do I need to remind you one more time that it's Women's History Month? Also, she is our returning champion, which means she's riding away from 2021. She's somebody who, in the small amount of work that we have from her, we do have 5 operas from her, which is not as much as some other people in this bracket, but each one of them is, if you look at the melody, if you look at the orchestral structure, they are quintessential 19th century opera. They can go toe-to-toe with any male output that's out there. One more time, it's Women's History Month.
You know what? That's a good point. It is Women's History Month, and when you think of composers who have mastered the art of writing for the female voice, I dare you to think of many who would rank higher than Richard Strauss, especially when you compare the music he wrote for, let's just pull one out of our pocket and say the tenor voice, which is, borderline unsingable. But every single Strauss opera is packed to the gills with moments of soprano fierceness. He was married to a soprano. The man knew a soprano voice. We talk about range. Richard Strauss has the range. You've got everything from really intimate moments like the sisters duet in Arabella to the most bombastic thing you can ever imagine, the entirety of Die Frau ohne Schatten, which somehow beats Rosenkavalier, Elektra, and Salome, and I stand by the fact that. I also can't think of a composer who more encapsulates the state of opera in the 20th century than Richard Strauss. That kind of push and pull of dynamism and boundary breaking and conservatism, and sometimes being both of them at the same time. Like very new, very avant-garde, but like dressed up in this neo-romanticism that hides all the difficult rhythms and harmonic languages that he was more or less inventing on the spot. His partnership with librettists like Hugo von Hofmannsthal are among the most successful combinations of music and text in the operatic canon.
Take that, Gilbert and Sullivan.
And I think that some of the most thrilling moments in all of opera, let alone just 20th century opera, come from Strauss operas. I mean, the trio for Rosenkavalier stands on its own. The whole 100 minutes of both Salome and Electra. The unheckleable brilliance of Zerbinetta's aria. Like, just come on. Why are you trying to heckle Zerbinetta's, Ashlee? I'm just saying, Viardot put up a great fight. She's wonderful. We're lucky to have her, but like we're up against the GOAT sometimes, and the GOAT's gonna win.
So I think Pauline Viardot, she really came through in her matchup against Richard Wagner. But I think, going up against two Germans in a row might be the end of such a great lady, a Spanish lady. When did Spain ever beat Germany?
Not in the World Cup.
That's
I can
a good
say
question.
that. Maybe in tennis, but
So I'm sorry to say, it is Women's History Month, but by the time you hear this episode, it might already be over. So,
Good call. Bad call. On Opera Box Score.
oh my lord, this has been a trip. Oliver Camacho, give us a good call or bad call. Put me out of my misery.
mine is both. A certain British journalist who has a classical music blog called, well, it rhymes with flipped, but we won't say the name of that blog. Yeah.
It kind of rhymes.
It always is doing something that irritates me, but recently posted something very transphobic about when will now opera has stepped into the gender wars, talking about male sopranos and the recent signing by...
Oh, wait, now they've stepped into the gender wars?
Yeah. The recent signing, I think, by Decca of the Venezuelan soprano Samuel Marino, who is male. And so I think we should, just to piss him off and to celebrate Samuel Marino, we should all go listen to that new album called Sopranista, with the, I think, Venice Baroque Orchestra. Once again, the name is Samuel Marino, male soprano. They exist. They're out there.
Matt Cummings.
I am really excited to see Fire Shut Up in My Bones at Lyric Opera this week. By the time you listen to this episode, I will have seen it.
Weston Williams.
By the time we finish recording this episode, I already saw it on Friday.
And Ashlee Hardgrave.
I will also be seeing Fire tomorrow night, but I'll tell you what I really have. What I have is a bad call. I don't know if you guys have seen this Infinity commercial that's been rolling around that's got, some people know it as also Sprach Zarathustra. Some people know it as the theme from 2001, The Space Odyssey. There's an Infinity car commercial with what can best be described as a mildly talented middle school band playing this theme, and then the mother closes the car door and then it's silent inside. But it's that commercial is in constant rotation, and if you've ever heard that theme poorly played by beginning level orchestral musicians, you know what fresh hell it is to hear it 14 times a day if you're watching live television. So bad call to Infinity. By the way, I'm not alone. There is a change.org petition with thousands of signatures asking people to get that commercial off the air.
And to do it to opera's winningest composer of the last 300 years.
It all ties in.
I got him.
How dare they?
Nice job. I do have a good call, but it's also about a commercial. This is a Buick commercial that I saw when I was watching sports. It talks about basketball player Arike Ogunbowale and says she hit one of the most clutch game-winning shots ever. You probably didn't see it. Why? Because 40% of professional sports players are women. They get 10% of the coverage on national media. This is an ad that really makes you think. That's it for this week's edition of America's Talk radio show about opera. I I still can't believe I couldn't name 5 Handel operas. I feel so ashamed right now. I bless you, Oliver. We have our differences, man, but that question, you're going to make me do my homework, and I'm grateful. Our announcer is Norm Woodel. He's at normwoodel.com. Again, you're watching on TDO. Make sure you subscribe to that podcast. Get the full show. Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Send us the voice memo. Email us the hot take, operaboxscore@gmail.com. You're going to get that beer coaster and that OBS lapel pin. Our creative consultant is Oliver Camacho. Audio and video editor is Weston Williams. Our co-hosts at Cummings, Ashlee Hardgrave, and I'm George Cederquist, asking you to continue the conversation about opera while you try to name more than 5 operas by Handel. We're back with an all-new show next week where we trawl through the slate of 2022-2023 season announcements. Plus, you get more opera headlines, more hot takes, more of that signature thirstiness. Join us.